Hello, hello, hello. Hooligan Soccer Podcast, game week 24, as ever, with Crystal Palace's number one diehard fan, The Qooligan, and myself, Gary Striker.
In the genuine 1970s vintage edition.
This is, yeah, I like it. This is a very, very good kit. How are you, Qooligan? We're coming on a Tuesday. We've obviously wrapped up game week 24, which we'll be covering. Transfer window is closed as well, and there's been some activity. Yes, finally. It wasn't the most exciting transfer window, but there was a little bit of activity and definitely some winners and losers.
Listen, it was kind of the Oakland of transfer windows, all right? There's no there. No disrespect to Oakland, which I love dearly, but still, there wasn't much in the way of earth-shattering. There's one big earth-shattering thing which we'll get to, and it's because it is shocking. But
okay,
we'll stay tuned because we'll save that one. Yeah,
we'll save that one as well. And of course, just as ever as well, just to throw in there, we've started doing this. We started tracking analytics on the back end to see that we do have quite a number of listeners around the country, around the US, and also around the world as well. So if you
we love all of you. We love every single one of you.
If you are a real listener and not just a bot, as we often joke about, please don't be afraid to get in touch with us. You can get in touch with us through Facebook, on X, at hooligan-soccer.com. There's a contact us form. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. If there's any things that you feel as though we've misrepresented, any bullshit that's come out of our mouths that you think could be needs to be corrected, or any things that you just like.
No. The bullshit's out of that mouth. The bullshit's out of that mouth.
Bullshits are extraordinaire, right? Bullshits are extraordinaire.
Yeah. No, I am not but unvarnished truth.
Okay, and of course you can also read all of our articles, and particularly the Qooligans as well. And if you feel as though there's been any typos or missteps as well, then feel free to call them out publicly or privately. All is welcome.
Yep.
All is welcome. So, Qooligan, let's get into last week's results.
Last week's results.
Wild.
There's only one that you really need to talk about.
It's obviously, what is it? Crystal Palace, Man United? Is that the one?
No. I would listen. When I'm wearing I would not say that that's the only result. That firstly, that result, while an excellent result, and I'm happy to go at length about it, I don't think that needs to. Anybody who watched that game knows what happened.
Yeah.
Let's just push that one aside, because in the grand scheme of the league, in the grand scheme of everything that's going on, that game had minimal shock value. All right. I mean, yeah, it hurt. There's a lot of people in Manchester that got hurt by that. Yeah. Wow. There was a lot of people got hurt by a lot of things in Manchester this weekend. That's one of the results we're going to talk about. But no, I think we have to lead off with the first game of the whole campaign.
Of course.
What the hell? Game, right? What the hell did they put in Nottingham Forest's water?
That was just. I mean, wow! It was obviously the early game, and I don't know if you were able to get up and actually watch it, or you just caught the highlights.
I absolutely did not. I woke up, turned on the telly, looked at it, said, "Damn, I must be dreaming." I had to pinch myself. Mm-hmm. It's like, nope, that's the real deal. That is a result 7-0 Nottingham Forest over Brighton. And hey, there it is. And that's the big surprise. We know that Forest is dangerous. We know that Forest can score. We know, let's just say this. I said it last week. I think you agreed that their 5-0 loss to Bournemouth was a blip and was an anomaly. And oh boy, did they make that obvious, because they laid out a bunch of chips, and they laid out some treats and some cupcakes, and they enticed the Seagulls in, and then they slaughtered them.
They got hammered.
It wasn't even fair. It was so ugly.
Yeah. I think by the time it got to sort of 3-0, you could see that Brighton's heads were just hanging, and it was one of those games where sort of you just sort of want it to end. And Forest didn't relent. They didn't relent, did they?
But Brighton didn't give up. And that's the shocking thing. Forest got 7 goals on 36 37% possession.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that for a second. 37% possession, and they got 7 goals. Mm-hmm. Brighton had 40% more completed passes and touches, maybe even higher than that. How do you put it, right? Brighton didn't stop playing. They didn't give up. They didn't allow Forest to run rampant over them. Forest just did it anyway. Mm-hmm. And I think that type of stuff is fascinating and very telling, right? Because Brighton is a good team. They are generally disciplined. They do, they're all right. They weren't all right that day. No, they were not all right. That was a long journey back to the south. I don't know if they go by coach but if it's a coach trip, that is the longest coach trip ever. They probably fly, but still, I mean, like, dude, or take the train.
It's not pretty, right? Yeah, it is. It is. It's incredible, and it just seems that this is like Forest's sort of strategy, which is just to play counter-attacking football, right? This is just how they seem to have just been so effective, right? Elanga, I was really impressed with him as well. With just, I think he really did well. Yeah. Of course, he started it. He was feeding it. 3 assists, got a hat trick of assists, right? Hat trick of assists. And Wood got the hat trick. Although, I mean. Was the penalty a penalty? Whatever. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to get into that debate. At that point, did it matter? No. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
exactly. It was all over. But my goodness, yeah, it just really does Nottingham Forest are the real deal. This is not just sort of a vein of form that they're going through. They are. Espirito de Santos has got them cooking on gas, and
he does. He does. So. And I mean, let's harken back. It's not the same situation, but let's harken back to another club that used to just sit, absorb, and play counterattacking football. It worked for Leicester.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
All right.
This is true.
It worked for Leicester. What is it, 15, 16? It worked for them. 15, I'm not saying that Forest is going to do that. I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Liverpool's going to stumble, but they're certainly going to be making an argument for Europe.
Well, I think it's looking. I mean, they're already sort of. It's just looking at the league, right? They're 4 points clear of 4th place Chelsea at the moment. So it looks like, I think it's theirs to fuck up now, and it's theirs to lose. And I think exactly.
What a luxury! What a luxury to be! What a beautiful place to be, knowing that you're going into the tail end of the season and your destiny is in your hands. You have, right.
And you have just such a sort of strong vein of form, right, as well. I know they've had that sort of blip, obviously,
completely
last weekend previously, but just looking sort of really good. Don't have any injury issues or anything like that. There's none of this going on as well. So, no, it really is exciting to see. And I think it really is good for sort of the league and the sport just to see it shaken up. And it's not just the same teams constantly sort of coming in and dominating and winning and shaking it up. So,
Sure.
Wow. No, that was, really exciting to see. What do you want to go to next then, the Qooligan? Which game do you
let's do the opposite, right? Bournemouth, coming off of their 5-0 shellacking, right, on Forest, was on the receiving end of a dismissive Liverpool backhand. I mean, they were just like, upstart biatches, go, bye. Just move along. I mean, it was like, again, not that Bournemouth rolled over. They absolutely didn't. They were threatening. They were dangerous. There were moments where I think Liverpool fans were like, "Oh golly, I think we dodged a bullet there." Mm-hmm. But Liverpool were just as Liverpool are. They were methodical, relentless, slowly closing in, like the perfect apex predator, just going and doing their thing, ignoring all of the other nonsense going around. And, Bournemouth struck the woodwork twice, I think. I mean, but it didn't matter. Clouvert was a little, Clouvert, he had the chance.
He did.
He had his opportunity at around 7-8 yards out. He didn't hit it. I do think if that ball goes in, you've got a different game. And that's what happens in this sport, is that things hinge on those one plays.
changes.
It's not always
the dynamic
fair,
of it.
but it happens.
Yeah,
it did.
That's
it did.
And then you felt just like once Liverpool got that penalty and Salah converted it, you're just like, okay, you can just see that they just go into sort of cruise control where they just control the game, just dominated and then squeeze the second goal out. And again, another comfortable win. 6 points clear. They play, incidentally, Liverpool play their catch-up game, their sort of game in hand on Wednesday tomorrow with Everton as well. So they're given sort of, given the way that is, you'd expect Liverpool to sort of take those 3 points. And really
Gary, I hate to break it to you, but it is not tomorrow. It is on the 12th.
It's on the 12th. Oh my, sorry, I'm getting. That's the following Wednesday, isn't it? Goodness me.
Yes, it is. It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you for keeping me honest here.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. But that game. Well, and what a great segue, by the way. What a great segue, because that game is very, very different now than it would have been had it been held in its original time. And there's two reasons why that is happening. And the first reason is David, and the second reason is Moyes.
Okay. Yes, indeed.
Because as we know, right? The Scottish, what did I say? I believe I called him a dead-eyed, the Scotsman with the dead-eyed gaze, who looks like he came off as an extra off the set of Game of Thrones as one of the White Walkers, or one of the members of the Bolton clan, henchmen. If you know, you know. He has, as he is always wont to do, he's got his team on the bounce and winning.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Everton are now 3 out of 4 with victories, and they're going in to face a Liverpool team, and we all know there's no love lost. It's the final Merseyside derby that's going to be at Goodison Park.
Yes. And
Everton would like nothing more than to take down the Reds. Will it happen? No, I don't think so. But I'm expecting one hell of a fiery affair. Mm-hmm. And I do not begrudge the referee who got assigned that task. That's going to be no winning for the referee on that day. Not at all.
Talk about intensity and sort of a pressure cooker there as well, right? The pressure on it.
And to go back onto the fixtures, Everton just destroyed Leicester 4-0. I mean, come on.
Well,
it was.
Yeah, and what seems to have happened now is they've kind of sort of there's quite a bit of daylight now, isn't there, between obviously sort of 17th place where Everton are and Wolves, right? So Wolves, admittedly, obviously, and they still don't have a game in hand. So again, you'd think Everton, as you say, with the bounce with those 3 wins on the spin now, where they've really pulled themselves out of relegation threat, and there's daylight, and then it looks like there's a bottom 4 that's just breaking off, and it's going to be a bun fight for that sort of final third spot of that third relegation spot. But yeah, Everton really have.
You think that?
Yeah.
I don't think Everton. I think Everton's going to fall, and I think that the bottom 5 are going to remain somewhat muddy. But we were crystal clear a week ago. We all knew what was going to happen. But this week, now that Southampton suddenly showed up and beat Ipswich at home, because frickin' Ipswich cannot catch a break. They can't. I'm done. I'm off that train, Gary. I know. I don't give a crap anymore. Ipswich is dead to me.
Well, they
had me. They led me along. They led me along down a primrose path of belief. I really wanted Ipswich to succeed. They are dead to me, Gary.
Yeah. Well, if
I cannot. No. I'm done. Yeah. I am not wasting any more emotion or words trying to justify Ipswich staying up. Nope, not going to happen.
Well, if Southampton can roll them over, I think Ipswich it doesn't look too good for them. It really does not look too good. So
and listen, Ipswich fought again. It wasn't a debacle. God, it was a debacle.
It was an unmitigated disaster. If anyone loses to Southampton, it's you've got a crisis on your hands. That's for absolute sure.
Yes, you do.
I mean, not even Man United lost to Ipswich. Lost to Southampton, and that they came pretty close if you remember a few weeks ago. So
they needed a 17-year-old to bail them out.
There we go. It's not that hard.
Maybe he's 18. I don't know.
Newcastle, while they sort of had a bit of an uppick through the sort of crucible period, they seem to be sort of wobbling just a little bit. with a loss and a win and a loss. And again, I was surprised by this result, I have to say. I thought,
I was too.
I thought they'd sort of get it together, but yeah, that was a mediocre. And again, it just speaks to sort of Newcastle's sort of form and why. Again, I don't know if it's going to be interesting to see who makes it into the top four, or could the top to the top four, and who takes that fourth spot, because it looks like the top three are sort of looking pretty comfortable and confident. So Newcastle are obviously sort of in and thereabouts fighting, but yeah, I thought this was a shock result. That's certainly for sure, especially losing at home as well.
I would agree. This was this was an upset. This was an upset, and surprising in that regard. But I mean, listen, credit to Fulham, right? They just, it almost, did they want it more? Maybe they seem to have a lot more to fight for, and Newcastle does have this ability to sometimes switch off. And I think that's what happened. They just had a switch off. It's like, oh, okay. And I don't think it's going to impact them for next week's fixture, right? They'll turn it around.
Yeah, they'll get it there. Yeah, but that was that. Just sort of pushing through them. The Midlands battle of Wolverhampton against Aston Villa. This was a surprise for me. I was going to roll them over. And Aston Villa, I wonder if this result kicked their sort of leadership team into gear and actually made them have the sort of the aggressive transfer window that they actually did and started going for it. But we'll talk about that in a moment. But definitely surprised by this one.
No, I don't think that Villa's transfer window is something we can discuss, and I don't think this result is what kicked it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think the score line looks bad. The game itself wasn't bad.
The scoreline didn't represent the game. Is that what you think?
I would agree. I think Wolves kind of squeaked by, right? Cunha's goal came in stoppage time. All right, mm-hmm. It was a beautiful goal, but it came right at the end, mm-hmm. right? And Villa was in it. Wolves wasted so many chances. They should have been up. This scoreline should have been at least 3 or 4. Yeah, they wasted too many chances, and I really thought Wolves were going to stumble because that's what they've been doing all season. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But they dug in, they grounded out, right? I think Villa. I think that I think the manager made a mistake. I think he started the wrong team. They have got a terrible record post Champions League match. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Post Champions League, Villa are 1 win, 3 draws, and 4 losses. Think about that. Yeah. So here they are coming in off Champions League, and he starts a lot of the same players that were playing. They looked tired. They looked right. They weren't sharp when they were far more threatening in the second half when 4 substitutions came in. Yeah. Jazzed the whole place right up. Goosed them. Yeah. Got them going. Yeah. Wolverhampton were lucky. They earned their luck. They earned their luck, but it could have been a 1-1 draw, could have been a 2-2 draw. And people still would have been given Wolverhampton kudos. But no, now they're feeling pretty good. They're feeling pretty good.
If you look at the sort of the possession of the match, right? Again, Aston Villa, they had 69% ball possession, and then if you look at the big chances that they created, it was one big chance out of that 69 possession versus Wolves with 31% and 4 big chances. So
once again,
just efficient with the ball that they have, and sort of again probably wanted a little bit more as well. So that was
possession does not win games.
It does not. It's goals. It's goals. It's goals.
It's all goals, baby.
It is indeed. So Spurs, a rare win for Spurs, given the sort of the challenges that they're having at the moment as well. That was an interesting result. I have to say, it was rare to see Spurs with a win.
It is, and it's not going to, and it doesn't change my opinion about their season or my opinion about Ange whatsoever. Still down on them.
They're still, well, it's a win will save them, and obviously again they had a little bit of activity in the transfer window as well. So so Spurs, I was surprised by that one, but well done Ange and team. And then of course the big one, which was your beloved Palace against. I mean, just what the hell is going on with Manchester United? It's just crazy. Man U had all the possession. They didn't have the big chances, but Palace had the big chances. And they had 11 corner kicks to Palace's 0.
Yeah,
they had
twice the amount of passes. Sure. Yeah. But we've got something they don't have.
And what is that?
1, Will. 2, Mateta. A goal scorer.
That's silly. Yeah, a goal scorer. Well, I mean, we could talk about that, but yeah.
No, I mean, it's like we've got. I mean, it's taken a while, but Mateta has evolved himself into, a proper threat up front, a proper 9 who's just going in and finding space, coming off the pace, coming off, he's doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to get 2 goals as well at Old Trafford as well.
17 shots.
Yeah.
Gary, and only 2 on frame.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not even making the goal. You're not even making the keeper, earn his paycheck.
And it doesn't even matter, right? Yeah, 2 on shots. Yeah, look at that, and they hit the woodwork as well, right? They both hit the woodwork as well. So, yeah, it's a lot of issues going on with United. That's for sure. It's absolutely the case. But well done, Palace, and obviously obviously you guys again. I think I think it's safe to say that you can probably breathe a sigh of release now that you're sitting in 12th place above Man United as well. 13 points off the relegation zone. What's the magic number historically? We said it's like 37 points. 37 is usually is
especially with a number of teams really underperforming this particular season. I think 36 is a virtual lock.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about 3 more wins, and I think Palace has a lot more than 3 wins in them for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, they're good. They're good, especially the way they've been playing in the run of form that they've got into. I mean, even if you just look at Palace's run of form in the last 5 games, they've only lost 1 and drawn 1 and then won 3. So so they're coming into a sort of rich vein of form at the right time. So good for Palace. This was the next one, the City Arsenal game. I mean, I watched the highlights of this twice just to try and understand what the hell went on here.
So I missed this game. I was watching the Palace game. I left the Palace game with a few minutes remaining, only because there was that terrible injury to Martinez, Lisandro Martinez. Right. I hope he recovers quickly. I was actually officiating that day, so I missed all of this. I came out of my officiating bubble where I'd done a few games, and I looked at, and I went in and checked my phone and went, what?
Yep.
And so when I got home, I actually teed it up and I watched the whole thing. I had to, because I couldn't even just trust the highlights.
Yeah.
Highlights don't always tell you the whole story. I had to watch the whole thing. I put the whole thing on.
So you did a full rematch.
I did. I did a full rematch.
And it just seems like Arsenal just took their chances and City didn't. That's kind of the best way I can describe it, right?
Yeah. I was expecting to see something a bit more definitive and something a bit, that really made me go, oh, well, there it is. I didn't see it. City just didn't play well. And Arsenal played... I like to crap on Arsenal, right? I like to, they're not one of my favorite teams, and I'm generally harsh, and I'm generally harsh on them. The fact remains they are undefeated now for 11 games.
Yeah.
Right? They have not lost in 11 games, which is a good run. And I've been giving praise to other teams that have managed to have 9, 10 goal stretches of undefeatedness or straight wins, for that matter.
Yeah.
I kind of begrudgingly have to give it to Arsenal. This was, I think, their first full complete game where in a long while. I mean, they've won other games, but they've never been convincing about it. They were 100% convincing in this. 100% convincing. If you were to just watch this one game and some other things, you'd be like, yeah, that's the team that's going to win the title.
Yeah.
because they were
it looked
terrific.
complete. The one observation that I did have from this is the goals that Arsenal scored. They just seem very training groundy, and by that sense, they weren't like amazing goals. And it did feel to me like the goalkeeper Ortega, and obviously it's not Edison that they have in goal, so maybe that could have been the reason as well. But the keeper seemed to be just a little bit. He looked at it a little bit like Chelsea's Robert Sanchez in a way, where he did just let some soft and easy goals in, and like Havertz's goal where he sort of bent it in the corner. Those kind of things, they should be probably saved if they were sort of, if they were more on form. But again, to be honest, again, Arsenal getting into those positions as well. Again, Arsenal have John Stones and Akanji in central defence as well. So it's not like they can say they're depleted. Those are solid, Champions League winning, Premier League winning defenders. So it does feel like there is sort of Arsenal feel very insecure at the moment. They're just not confident in their sort of defensiveness and that foundation that they have. And I think Man City are. I don't think this is the end. I don't think this is Man City out of the woods. I know they've had a few good runs in the Premier League, looking at their last form, and there's another loss here, and and then they've got Real Madrid coming up, obviously in the Champions League, and there's the FA Cup this coming weekend as well. So it will be interesting. I don't see City getting back into the top four if they just carry on playing like this. I really don't.
I agree with you 100%.
Well,
I agree with you.
Well, and then just rolling on to something else we'll probably agree with, which was this Chelsea West Ham game. This was, as a Chelsea fan, this was just the softest, limpest performance that they got lucky. They got lucky.
They did. Yes, they did.
One out. It was interesting to see that obviously Graham Potter back, obviously as the former Chelsea manager, back at Stamford Bridge as West Ham. There was quite a bit of a joke in the press box or the press room afterwards at the end of the game. He's like, "Well, I didn't miss this place," and shows a little bit of humour there, which was good to see. But it was a lucky result for Chelsea. I have to say they could have conceded a few more, and again, Jackson is just out of touch. Obviously, sort of got taken off. I was glad to see that they did bring on this young Spanish kid, Mark Gui for Jackson on 52 minutes, and also as well Pedro Neto as well scored as well, which was good to see. But Chelsea do not also look comfortable or dominant in any way, shape or form. They got a lucky result there.
Yeah, you speak truth, Mr. Striker. You speak truth. I was probably a little harsher. I was a little harsher in our exchanges on social media during the game.
They should have had a goal. Who was that? That West Ham player. What was the striker?
Kudus.
Kudus. He should have.
Yeah, he should have. He was offsides, but he's got to put that in the net just to scare the living bejesus out of Chelsea.
Yeah, exactly, and especially as they've changed out their goalkeeper and put Jorgensen in. It just shows again there's insecurities there, and if that happens, you want to just aggressively push on him, and that's how you do. That's how you can sort of get into them mentally, right? So it was a soft win, and I think for Chelsea's perspective, just in terms of the outcomes of the league, I think it was a good week for them, because obviously you have City losing, Newcastle losing, and Bournemouth losing as well. So
that's right
as well. So they got the chance to just hop up into the fourth. I don't think they stay there for much longer, and I don't think that's going to be the way it finishes. I think there's still quite a bit more stuff to happen in the coming weeks of the season. So yeah. And then in terms of actual sort of just general sort of standout players, Qooligan, any sort of players that sort of stood out for you? Obviously, I thought Chris Wood and Elanga for Forest and looks really, really good this weekend.
Listen, Salah got a brace. Salah got a brace again. I mean, he's on 20 goals.
Yeah.
I mean, we're only we're not even 2/3 of the way through the season.
Yeah.
He could be going in for 30 plus goals.
There's no reason, if statistically
there's no reason to think that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
So he's making his argument for a blank check.
Yeah, well, there's because now that transfer window is gone, and there's been no news on that front on the Liverpool side. It will be interesting to see what happens. So.
No, that is still a big underlying. That's a big underlying saga. I want to shout out to Munoz from Crystal Palace, who has been one of I think the critical signing for them. Mm-hmm. He's just electric. He's the quintessential attacking wing back. Mm-hmm. Just all over the place, sneaky, a real jerk. Just what you want. It's just what you want. You know, and Mateta's just finishing, but I mean, good for him. The whole squad did well there. I think that's another exceptional standout.
Yeah.
No standouts for Arsenal. They were all good. Everybody on Arsenal's side was good. Although you got to give Partey, Thomas Partey a bit of a. I mean, coming in, intercepting, taking that shot. Good for him. Nice to see him back on the scoreboard.
That's true. Yeah. Again,
but yeah, no, I mean, sure.
Yeah.
That's it, really. Yeah.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I think that's so. Yeah, it was a sort of an interesting week, as I say. The standout games for me, definitely the Forest result was absolutely sort of massive, and then obviously that Arsenal one, thumping City 5-1. That's not going to help obviously their confidence levels and their form as well as they go into the sort of the back end of the season. So yeah, so then moving along, we also had obviously the close of the January transfer window as well. It was. The sort of what would be your sort of your sort of summary of this and your take? What was your sort of take from this transfer window? Because these things can either get crazy and out of hand, or they can just be really actually quite dull affairs. And I think it was definitely.
I think we have to go with one of my favorite Shakespeare plays. It was Much Ado About Nothing. No, I mean really, there was some bits, some this. There was some Saudi muscle being thrown around, some Saudi money being tossed. And in the end, nothing really happened. There wasn't that much that came out of the window, truly.
Yeah.
So I don't, I don't know what to. Were there any real winners in the transfer window? I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb, though. I do think Villa.
I agree.
I think Villa is an overall winner here. Malen, I think, was a great signing. He's come on. He's played a few minutes, but every time he's come on, aside from his Champions League performance, where he basically did nothing for like 15 minutes, but then once he got the ball at his feet, you're like, oh, now I see what. I get it. I get it now. Yeah. So he's mobile. He switches. He goes left. He goes right. He plays center. He's all over the place. You never know where you're going to spot him.
Yeah, and
that's good. I do think that this Disasi signing is a smart one too, right? We'll wait and see. And then Rashford, listen. I would give them the clear winner if it wasn't for the fact that they're footing 75% of that guy's bill, right? That's a hell of 75% of his wage bill they're covering. That's a shite ton of money, Gary. That's a lot of money.
That is, and he's on like $350 a week. So obviously, if that's a big chunk of change. He's paying like quarter of a million a week, just obviously for Rashford, right?
Correct, and that hurts. That's going to hit their bottom line.
Yeah.
But the good news is, boy, do they got money. They have got money to spare. They are up £67.5 million.
Yeah.
That's a lot of cheddar, man. That is a lot of cheddar.
Well, they also sold this guy to Ipswich for 20 million. We're talking pounds as well, right? So Philogene, is that how you pronounce it as well?
Jaden Philogene. And listen, excuse me, he was not getting any starts at Villa.
Yeah, so
players want to play. Players want to play. They're bringing in money. They're giving somebody over. Ipswich is probably going to go down. Philogene's going to bounce. Mm-hmm. Maybe he sticks with them, and maybe he helps him fight his way back up, and he gets a name for himself. I don't know. He's really young. Young. Yeah. But to get 20 million for a young player like that shows that the depth of desperation that Ipswich have.
Well, but I hope he has a relegation clause in his contract as well. So,
ooh, I see. I didn't see one, and I think that's a fascinating one. But but then of course, and then they lost John Duran, and is that really a loss for them? I don't know. Well, he listen. Was he a spark? Did he get things done? Was he in the super sub? Absolutely, 100%. I think Malen has that same potential. Mm-hmm. They sold Duran for nearly 65. Yeah. They pulled in Malen for 20. Okay. So if Malen just gets maybe 8 goals.
Mm-hmm.
If he gets 8 goals just in the second half of the season, that's worth it.
Yeah.
If he gets 8 contributions, that's worth it.
It's good
right?
business. Yeah.
It's very smart. And so Villa, well done, lads. Good business. Good business this term. Yeah,
I agree with you. I think the Rashford, it's definitely, there's definitely a risk to it because you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know how shot his confidence is, what are his fitness levels. Obviously, maybe he's got a point to prove, and obviously sort of wants to sort of get banging again. If you're Marcus Rashford, it's a way out of Manchester United. I think they've done well. Right. So yeah, that is good business. And then look, if it goes well, then maybe they go and sign him and sort of they got a 40 million buy clause on him. I mean, if you compare, I think think about how low that is. Compared to where Rashford would have been about a year ago, maybe year. I mean, that's a fraction. If Rashford suddenly finds form, and he could, because listen, Unai Emery's going to give him some space. And let him you put him on. You put him on. You don't start him. You sub him in. You give him the chance to prove himself. Mm-hmm. You're paying a lot of money. This is true. Yeah, but. Yeah, they apparently feel it's worth it. They, the big brains there have said this is smart. Great. Well, fine. I don't know. The way Villa have sort of turned it around and not only got into the Champions League as well, but some of the signings that they've been doing, it seems like they've sort of managed to get their transfer sort of strategy. Really, they're obviously looking at some set of metrics that no one else is looking at. They see things that others don't see. True. The other one that I was really surprised about, I have to say, is they also signed Marco Asensio, and they got him on loan from PSG. Now, I don't know if you recall this. This was a few years ago. Marcos Asensio was a Real Madrid youth player and came into the Real Madrid team. And he was electric when he started. He was scoring incredible goals. He's won the Champions League a couple of times when they were really in that sort of, continue to be in that dominant phase. For whatever reason, obviously, it didn't work out. He's gone to PSG. That hasn't worked out. Obviously, PSG have had to loan him. What is interesting is if you just look at Aston Villa on the surface, the way I would perceive Aston Villa would not be historically as a sort of top 4 team sort of being able to pull in big stars. These are big names that they've been able to attract as well. Obviously they can offer Champions League football, but sort of be able to say, look, you can come in, you can play Champions League football, and then obviously as well, they're going to make a push and try and get back into the top 4 as well. So if those two guys help them out, and as you say, that business that they've done of getting rid of Duran, I have to say I was a little bit surprised to see Duran go to Saudi and go to Al Nassr because, he's only 20, 21 years of age as well. He could have, obviously it's that's what drives it, but he would have got a payday anywhere he went if he'd have gone to Arsenal or whoever it is, or could have gone overseas to Europe, anywhere else.
Not as much.
Yeah, it's obviously not as much, but yeah, so that was an interesting one.
Good call on Asensio. I missed that. I didn't really pick up on that. That's a good call. That's a good call. Yeah, but you're right. That's another shrewd bit of
shrewd bit of business that they've been able to attract. There were rumours that Arsenal were trying to tempt Ollie Watkins, obviously Villa's sort of main striker. Obviously,
there's no way that was going to happen. There's no way that was going to happen. No.
And I think that the offer was like 60 million or something like that.
Not even close.
Villa, no. You're like, listen, we've just sold John Duran, our second striker, for 64 million. So
64.
Double that or just double that. So yeah, Arsenal very quiet. I'm surprised at that. I thought Arsenal would definitely go shopping for a striker. You could argue that against that Man City result, maybe they don't need to go looking for goals because they are in good shape. But that was a surprise when I did expect Arsenal to be.
No, they're gonna the end of the campaign with all the Champions League stuff. They didn't do any transfers. You're gonna see the wheels begin to come off. Yeah, fatigue, and everything else is gonna set in. Yeah. All that stuff's going to set in, and you're going to see it. They're going to Arsenal their way into the season.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Just looking through, obviously there was quite a bit of loan activity and not many sort of like big sort of big signings. As you can see, there was Brighton. Actually, this is the other ones to watch. Also at Brighton, I know you did this wonderful hit piece on my recommendations or my suggestions that Brighton are transfer wizards and transfer masters, and obviously
they're not.
I'm sure you had fun pulling that apart with just using.
No, they're not. I mean, no.
They've had some good wins, but
they've had great wins with a small handful of players in a very short period of time, but their overall strategy and their overall appeal not as
they're not
doesn't stand up. It's not that great. They're not.
I mean,
they're not.
You could make the argument that it's still rolling and they've reinvested the funds and sort of continue to buy younger players, and some of them will still continue to pop. The one that did jump out at me is they bought Diego Gomez from Inter Miami for 11 million. So this again was an interesting sort of, again, there seems to be this trend now where you're seeing quite a few top European leagues actually actively buying and spending decent money for MLS players to get them over from the MLS, obviously, into sort of the European leagues as well. So that was an interesting one. We'll see if he starts or what happens there. Just going through it, Chelsea, obviously, there was a whole bunch of sort of, they with Palace, they did seem to do this switcheroo where they said, okay, look, we're going to take Trevor Chalobah back, but you can go and have Ben Chilwell, the left back as well. And Chilwell, he's a good player. He's a good player. He's a good player.
I see very little loss of fidelity in that exchange. It's fine. Palace live and die on the loan, right? They're really big with that.
Yeah.
I don't see that as a negative. And they're thin on defense. Chalobah leaving, and now with Chilwell coming in, that just gives another body that we can throw at it. I do think that Romain Esse, not Eze, will be I think that was, listen, him scoring on his first touch, that's a great story. But that doesn't promise anything. I think he's actually he'll grow and develop in. It's the right place for him to go.
Yeah.
I'd give them a thumbs up on the transfer window because that's really all they had. Then interestingly, I do think I'm going to give Everton some points for Carlos Alcaraz.
Flamenco, right? On loan, right?
Hey, on loan with an option to buy. I mean, I thought I'm like, good for you. Good. Like, why not? Throw him in there. See if he works, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you cut him loose. And then it remains to be seen whether it will work. But Wolverhampton really needed to shore up that back. And they spent big. They spent 42 mil to get two center backs and two backs and a defensive midfielder. So hey, sometimes you got to roll that dice and you got to spend and you got to open up those purse strings. If it works, they're going to look like freaking geniuses. If it doesn't, whoop. Well, there you go.
I'm sure their agents all negotiated relegation clauses.
Absolutely, it just reinforces Wolverhampton as the softest place to land if you're a Portuguese-speaking player.
This is very true. There's a big Portuguese-speaking contingent as well. The other ones as well that I have to say is there was Newcastle didn't sign anyone, which was also interesting. Also, Manchester United, right? They signed Patrick Dorgu from Lecce for 13 million. So they've signed, I believe he's a right back or he's a defender, and it's a sort of defensive back in that way, sort of across.
Yeah. Dude, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He came out saying, wow, I'm incredibly proud. I'm like joining United. Okay, it's great. Listen, United is a legendary club. Joining and putting on the red is always going to be, right, is always going to be, self-affirming, and it's going to make you feel good. Let's check back in 6 months and see just how proud he is.
Let's see how happy.
That's all I'm saying. Let's just check back. Just check back.
Yeah, Southampton.
That was it. That was the only move they made. They are in so much trouble, but that's all. That's what they made. Yeah, okay, fine.
They made that. I think it looks like they also called a couple of players on loan back. They signed Aiden from Arsenal, which is, I don't know. There was not too much again. I don't think these are going to be forced first team.
No, these are not needle movers. These are strategic things. But
and is it? I do wonder if it is a sort of a recruitment problem. Can they actually attract the big stars anymore and say, come and play for United? They're not what they used to be. Also, if you look at their form and everything, you say, why would I want to go and play for United?
Right.
Also, given that I know like Rashford, they got off the books, or they have just for the rest of the season, obviously, which is fine. But again, if you look at sort of their forward lines, I think they've only got like 4 attacking players, because they also let Anthony go to Real Betis as well. So again, not that he was playing.
That actually, I think they had to cut bait with that guy. He was an anchor. He was weighing him down. I mean, he couldn't have been good in the dressing room. He couldn't have been good on the training pitch. I mean, the guy was just an absolute downer. Let Betis deal with him.
That was
fine.
I mean, it's interesting. United seem to have these effect on these players where they suddenly just brings out the bad attitudes in all of them. Like, look at Jadon Sancho, right? Jadon Sancho is a United player. He's there. Last season, he went out on loan to Borussia Dortmund, got to the Champions League final. So it seems to be doing okay at Chelsea as well. If you go back a little bit further, there was the Pogba issue and all of these kind of things. It's really fascinating.
I call it, for those people who know the series Diary of a Wimpy Kid, it's the cheese touch. All right. Manchester United is the cheese touch of the Premier League.
Yeah.
They've touched the cheese and nobody wants had anything to do with them.
Yeah, they definitely are. It's getting crazy. And then the other big one that I also wrote about this as well, was Matisse Tel, this Bayern Munich 18, 19-year-old striker, this French striker. And there was this sort of flurry of interest towards the end of the window.
He's actually Dutch.
All of a sudden,
he's Dutch.
Yeah, he plays for France though. He's registered for France, but plays for France. Grew up in the outskirts of when I did my research. Grew up in the outskirts of Paris. In Paris, you can click on him. But he's 19 years of age. He's obviously not getting past Harry Kane in terms of buy-in, and it seems like he wants some game time. Obviously, there was rumors floating around that you could buy him for 60 million, and but it was there was all these sort of like conflicting news stories. I think Tottenham have probably done the smart thing here by getting him on loan rather than forking out 60 million for him.
Oh yeah,
you can find out, because look, if he does turn out to be an absolute superstar and starts banging them away, Spurs is sort of season around. But again, Spurs have a lot of strikers on the books as well. So again, it's just your adage of Spursiness as well. It seems to be coming through here. So we'll see what playing for Spurs does, but it will be interesting to see how he performs and whether he can.
And Spurs also, they splashed out a lot of cash on a Korean kid, right?
Yes.
So they got Yang Min Hyuk, right? A lot of cash, 3.5 mil pounds. Okay, it's not that much, but still, you've got to wonder. It's like, all right, are they doing that to light a fire under someone's ass? What is the argument here?
Yeah. There is. I think there is the argument of, obviously it's about sort of shirt sales and sort of appeal to sort of the Asian markets for sure as well. Like Son is a great player as he is, but I think he's like in his early 30s as well, so he hasn't got huge amounts of sort of runway left in his career at Spurs. So I can imagine that they're sort of probably just trying to sort of keep a foothold in that market. But then interestingly, they signed him and then loaned him out to QPR as well. So he's gone on loan to QPR.
Yeah.
So he's obviously
I by the way, just to future proofing here, I smell a move. Son, I think, moves in the summer. I think he could go MLS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think there's a likelihood they could go MLS. There's a lot of teams sitting with a lot of designated player spots that would pick him up mid-season. To see if they could do anything. Yeah. But anyway, that's my
value add. No, that's an interesting call. I don't disagree with that. The other one as well, which probably makes sense, was Liverpool had no incomings as well. There was there was a bid for Darwin Núñez from Saudi, one of the Saudi teams. I think it was Al Nassr that ended up getting John Duran, and I think they said no. And again, if you're Liverpool, why would you upset the apple cart? Everything's sort of moving along. Why would you move players around? Interesting. There's still no news about contracts, obviously, against Salah, Van Dijk, and Alexander-Arnold. I'm sure there will be some news there, but technically now they are eligible, if they want, to go and sign a pre-contract with any future clubs that they may go and sign with. So we'll see. Correct. We'll see sort of what happens there. Again, I think, as we've discussed, we think that Arnold goes to Real Madrid and then Van Dijk and Salah stay for another year or two at least. And
I think this is all very intentional on Liverpool's part to have had a quiet transfer. The only thing that is fascinating is the rumblings around them wanting Isak and perhaps doing a switch with Núñez for Isak. Of course, that didn't happen this term. And they weren't going to, like you said, they're not going to do anything to upset the locker room. Yeah. And while they're moving along. So I think this is all just posturing for some summer moves. Same thing. They've got people working furiously to lock down these three and figure out what their futures are, whether it's with the club or without. So it's all very, very intentional to basically keep the lid on all this.
And especially with no major injuries or challenges like that at the moment, it just seems like, again, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Just leave it as it is. So
absolutely 100%.
some of these things are sort of to be the smart one as well. And
Yeah.
then I think just the other one as well. I know Chelsea had a bit of activity on the outgoings as well. I know they didn't really sign. They had some loans, good guys that they sort of.
Chelsea's a loser. Sorry, and Chelsea's a loser in this transfer window. They had things they needed to address and they didn't do it.
Where would you? Yeah. So what would you say?
No, they needed someone up front and attackers. But I'll also say this: at this time, attackers are really expensive.
There's a serious
attackers. There's a serious premium. Chelsea does not have the financial clout to go around. They've already dropped way too much money, so they don't have the ability to go in and spend like with abandon. So, but I don't think. Yeah, listen. Ultimately, this was a meh loss transfer window to them because they didn't really address any of their core problems and they just swapped out some defensive bodies. Whatever. It's just there's nothing there. Nothing there.
Yeah. Well, and then I think obviously they had a lot of bodies obviously on the roster, on the squad as well, so they were able to sort of obviously farm out quite a few people as well.
Sure.
Well.
That's. Yeah.
Which was
that's what Chelsea does. That's what Chelsea does, right? They've got a massive roster and they send kids out all the time. Yeah, that's it. That's their mojo. Yeah.
Well, there we go. And then I saw it.
But I got it. But listen, we've been avoiding this. You've been dancing around the subject, but we got to talk about the elephant in the room. What the fuck is Man City doing, spending 184 million pounds?
I was saving the
184. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of waiting for you, Gary. We got to talk about this because can you? Desperation has a price tag, and that price tag is 184 million.
Evidently, right? And I have to say, like, none of these players
for 5 players. 5.
Yeah. None of these players I was too aware of. I do want to say though, I do think that Omar Mamouche looks very good. He does look.
I think he's a good. I think he's a smart sign. Smart sign.
Yeah.
He needs time to adjust. He is. Oh, he's crafty. He's crafty. Good, he's slippery, and he's got a nice shot. Yeah, I like him.
Yeah. That's very good. So what? Yeah. Do you think so? This City sort of again. The spending, obviously, there's still these like 115 charges lingering over them. No one really knows what the state of play is. Is it happening?
They must have gotten some sort of inside scoop on that because you don't go out and spend that much money. I mean, I think they spent 3x the net or 4x the second highest spend in the Premier League.
I think the statistic I saw is the amount that they spent is actually more than all of the other clubs combined together in the Premier League.
Holy crap, that makes sense. I believe it. I didn't read it, but I believe you on that. Because it makes sense.
Yeah.
And so here's my take. Firstly, Kusanov, what they did to him was just terrible, right? To give him that debut I know it all worked out. That poor kid has been in therapy ever since. It's just terrible what they did. And then
talking about Kusanov, he's the Uzbeki, right? And he was the one against Chelsea.
Uzbeki defender.
For the first 2 minutes, like had a bit of a slip up, and obviously welcome to the Premier League.
Not a bit of a slip up. I mean, that's about as bad as you could. As bad as you can do. He gave away 4 of his first 5 passes, and he directly gave away a goal. Yeah, that's a terrible start.
It's a terrible start, but that's just, and he didn't start, and then of course he doesn't start the next game against Arsenal. So that's just shows the faith.
No, he does not.
Yeah, but
no, it's not a question of. I don't think that's a question of faith. I think that's Guardiola saying if he goes out against Arsenal, and if he's in that game against Arsenal, you've lost him for weeks. Psychologically, you've lost him for weeks. He's not going to want to go back out there in a sky blue shirt at all.
Yeah,
he's going to be daydreaming of the steppes of Uzbekistan in winter and thinking it's an improvement. So no, that's not good.
Yeah, that's not good. So what do you think? Do you think this is they hit the panic button internally and they're like, look,
yes,
penalty comes along anyway, but one thing they need to do in the short term is save their season and obviously sort of get back into the top 4 or 5 and also get through the Champions League.
2 things. They need to try and save their season. Some of these signings are there to do that. They knew Kyle Walker was leaving. They needed to get somebody else in, right? Kusanov was obviously they're not the same player, but that was a response. They needed to make sure that they could shore up a little bit more defense because Stones and Akanji are great players, but they're not the most consistent.
Yeah.
And here's my take. The Gonzalez signing, I think indicates that De Bruyne leaves in summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I
think that the fact that they're bringing him in and they're going to ease him in is, and I believe that De Bruyne goes to San Diego. That's where I think he waits. I think it goes until the end of Manchester, right? Until the end of this season, but then he's off to San Diego to give him a spark for a late push at the playoffs. That's my saying it now.
Yeah. No,
I
think that's a fairly good call. I agree with that one. But so what happened? I was surprised by this Kyle Walker news, I have to say. I mean, he's obviously he is a really solid right back. Still one of the fastest players in the Premier League, or was one of them. He's obviously gone to AC Milan now, but it's clear he's just for some reason just put his hands up and said, I don't want to be here anymore. This isn't working out for me. And so
that's right.
I think that's Rats jumping the ship in a way. He's thinking, look, this season isn't going very well. Let me try and find another another challenge here while I still can, and I've still got some ability here. And
listen, he's played almost his entire season or his entire career, right? With Man City,
and Spurs before that. Yeah, it was
I think he's like, I gotta go get some international flavor. He wanted something different, and he wasn't getting it with City. And when you're on the winning train, you can look over those things and you can sit there and go, well, another season, let's see what happens. But now he's like, no, I'm done.
That's it. Yeah, and living in Milan or Manchester, I certainly know where I'd rather live. That's for sure.
Very true.
Yeah, it is true.
Very true.
Wonderful. And then just so looking at some of these MLS transfers as well, I think, again, there seems to be a lot more activity sort of on a two-way sort of basis. There seems to be quite a few young MLS players going to these European leagues, and we're seeing more players come from the MLS and go into the European leagues. But incidentally as well, we're starting to see it where there are some more coming over, and when they're not in the twilight of their career. I'm thinking of Almiron most of all, right, to Atlanta.
I'd say he's. I'm gonna challenge you on that. I think he is in the twilight of his career.
Okay.
And it's not because he doesn't have. I mean, he's not been in great form. He suffered. He's had a little bit of injury. He's had a little bit of injury problem. But no, this is a return. This is a homecoming for him, right? Like,
of course.
He had his breakout in Atlanta. He goes back to Atlanta. That's not that surprising. Zaha going to Charlotte. That was surprising. I think will surprise a lot of people. Charlotte is. They're flush right now, so that's that's a big. I think that's a big move. There is still a lot to see in terms of the MLS because their transfer window does not close till the end of February. So there's a lot more action that can happen for them. Because they're not players. Absolutely,
they can still sign players from European clubs, even though their window's closed. So it just prevents you from signing rather than leaving, right? So they can still go to those markets. Okay.
And the reason for that is because in the United States and in South America, because their seasons happen within the calendar year and not over a calendar year, FIFA has two windows. There is the in-season window and the out-of-season window. They are in the out-of-season window, and the out-of-season window lasts for 3 months, whereas the in-season window lasts for 30 days. And so that's the big difference. So they're in their longer 90-day window area, so they don't have to be as desperate to sign. And there are clubs out there that need bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, like desperately need bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas dumped 18. FC Dallas dumped 18 of their roster at the end of last year. 18.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
So they're going to be split. Well, they've got to fill that gap somehow as well, right?
They filled it with believe it or not, they filled it with mostly their reserve team. They called up 9 players from their reserve team and gave them first team contracts.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, I mean, like things like that are just, they're not the only ones that went in and wholesale just sort of,
changing
cut bait. Right? No, there were a lot of teams that just were like, oh, bye. just shedding people like crazy. Montreal did the same thing. A lot of teams have done it. So there was a lot of coaching turnover. So yeah, it'll be exciting to see how all of this plays out. But I'm not expecting too many gigantic moves. Mm-hmm. I would be shocked, though it could happen that San Diego gets De Bruyne mid or before the season opener. I don't think it'll happen. I don't think it'll happen, but it could. The problem is that the deal that they have to negotiate with him probably involves an ownership stake, and those are hard to negotiate. It's not just a money thing.
That's complicating. Yeah, that's complicating. Also, as well, the other one as well, you see there's a few players that are also leaving Saudi as well, right? Obviously, we saw the Neymar news, which obviously he went back to Santos back in Brazil, which I thought he would have gone to the MLS or done something like that. But I understand it, with the Santos deal as well, he's also got a bit of ownership in the club as well, so that was part of the deal and the way they could tempt him and say, look, we'll give you a stake.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a good move for him. He needs to go back and rediscover his love. He was a mercenary for too long. He needs to go back and discover the joy. And he'll only be able to do that in Brazil.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair. Since when he moved to PSG as well, just the whole sort of PSG move, it was just it certainly didn't elevate his career. I think it probably had the opposite effect of what he was trying to do. So,
Agreed.
Wonderful. Well, as always, Qooligan, once again, we've bounced around the world, different transfer markets.
All right, Striker. Here we go.
Pools, leagues. We have the FA Cup coming up this weekend, obviously. So we'll do an FA Cup special, obviously, later on this week. And then also
we will.
As well, keep track on those MLS transfers as well, because I still think there's going to be a flurry of activity as we get into the next season.
Monitoring that daily. You better believe it.
Wonderful.
All right.
Well, The Qooligan, as always, until next time. Thank you very much.
Bye.